Thank you. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Auschwitz survivors who are with us today. And the leaders of more than 50 countries, royal families, and heads of state who came here today to honor the memory of those who died here. Thank you. Ten years ago, in 2015, Auschwitz survivor Roman Kent stood here on this platform at the 70th anniversary of the liberation, and he said these words: "We don't want our past to be our children's future." Let me repeat that again. We don't want our past to be our children's future. Roman Kent died 6 years later, but his words haunt us today, because if Roman Kent were here and saw what was happening to the Jewish people around the world in 2025, he would cry. It's hard for us to believe what we see today, the sudden violence of hatred against Jews, the singling out of the one Jewish state with huge demonstrations shouting anti-Semitic slurs everywhere. This is hard for us to watch, any of us, but I cannot imagine what it must be like for the almost 50 survivors here who are with us today. What Roman Kent said, and all of you lived through, we are watching right now in front of our eyes. Earlier, you heard Tova Friedman tell a story of watching children separate from their parents and taken to gas chambers. We know that 1.5 million children were killed in the Holocaust, the most heartbreaking number in an ocean of heartbreak. But 15 months ago, not 80 years ago, we saw Jewish children slaughtered, once again, for one reason: because they were born Jewish. In a very fundamental way, what happened in Israel on October 7th and what happened here at Auschwitz have one common thread: the age-old hatred of Jews. On January 27th, 1945, when the Red Army entered these gates, the world finally saw where the step-by-step progression of anti-Semitism leads. It leads right here. The gas chambers, the piles of bodies, and the horrors within these gates. But what led up to the Holocaust's final outcome? It began slowly, first when Jews were singled out in universities, excluded from jobs, with boycotts and attacks in the media. Yes, it began slowly, and then it happened all at once. Throughout the 1930s, the hatred against Jews may have been ignited by Hitler in Germany and Austria, but in France, Italy, even England and the United States, there were strong forces that supported this hatred. France had Marcel Boucard, Jacques Doriot, and Francois Coty. England had Oswald Mosley. Italy had Mussolini. And the US, there was the German Bund. How many force Henry Ford was a huge anti-Semite, as were Father Conklin, and believe it or not, even Charles Lindbergh. Today, we see eerie parallels throughout the world, throughout Europe, North America, even Australia. Jewish students have been singled out and threatened in universities. Today, Jewish professors have been fired. Today, Jewish children have been told to hide any outward signs of being Jewish. Today, there are mass demonstrations against Jews. Today, we see vile comments all over social media. Need I remind you, this is not 1933 or 1939. This is 2025. The hatred of Jews had its willing supporters then, and it has them now. You can't be Jewish or non-Jewish and not be concerned with what you see all around us today. But here, at these gates, we are forced to face one great question when we tell the story of Auschwitz. Everyone knows what happened here, but no one seems to know why it happened. Yes, it was a step-by-step process, and it was aided by those who hated Jews. But it was advanced by the indifference of people who thought they were not affected by anti-Semitism because they were not Jewish. It was a world silence that led to Auschwitz. When Hitler heard that silence after Kristallnacht in 1938, he knew he could do anything he wanted with the Jews. Kristallnacht may have been on page 1 of some newspapers, but it quickly disappeared. World leaders said nothing. On my first visit here at Auschwitz, I was accompanied by a famous survivor, Elie Wiesel. We were walking away from the gas chambers, and the sun was setting. Elie paused for a moment, and then he said something I will never forget. You know, he said, most people think the opposite of love is hate. It's not. It's indifference. Today it's the same story. Silence, indifference, and the exception of this hatred. So today, all of us must take a pledge to never be silent when it comes to anti-Semitism, or for that matter, any other hatred. These lessons for Auschwitz are not just for Jews, they're for the entire world. That's because Jews are the canaries in the coal mine. When the canary dies, miners know they have to get out of that mine as fast as possible. That canary died 15 months ago on October 7th. And that is the most consequential warning for the entire world. Yes, Hitler went after the Jews first. But when it was all over, more than 60 million human beings were dead. And this continent lay in ruins. Over 1 million Jews were killed here at Auschwitz. But they were not alone. 70,000 Polish Christians who thought they might be safe were also murdered right here, along with the others. When I spoke here 5 and 10 years ago, I talked about the horrors that Jewish survivors lived through. But I always spoke about it in the past, It never occurred to me that this could happen again. Of course, I'm not talking about gas chambers, but attacks on the Jewish people, the boycotts, the targeting, the exclusion could not be more real. And yes, they are really happening. But here is a crucial point. These attacks are not just targeting Jews. They are attacking Judeo-Christian beliefs, which is the bedrock of Western civilization. When we hear the chants like globalized intifada or death to Israel, what they are really saying is death to Western civilization. How do you stop this? Today, we have a generation that is led by social media, indoctrinated by activist teachers, and aided by a complacent population. They're complacent because they don't see it as their problem. But please believe me, it is all of our problems. Today in the U.S., 87% of Americans 30 and over fully support Israel's right to exist, just as every other country has exactly the same numbers. But for Americans under 30, the number drops to 40%. No right to exist? Almost half of all younger Americans don't believe Israel has a right to exist. And they are our future leaders. Let me tell you, this is not just happening in America. It is happening to young people in every single country that is represented here. Just as in my country, young people are getting most of their information from social media, and that is dangerous. Education, serious, honest education, is the only way to correct this, and that won't be easy. Entire institutions will have to be overhauled and corrected, and that goes for the media as well. Keeping opinions out of news would be a good start. So today, I cannot stand here and look at these survivors and say that everything is okay, as I have in the past, because everything is not okay. Roman Kent's words haunt us. So let today be the day we all of us, world leaders and ordinary citizens, Jewish and non-Jewish, old and young, make a solemn pledge to stop this now before it's too late. We must, you must, and that's every one of your countries. No hatred of Jewish people or any people is tolerated at all. Remember, it wasn't just Jews that died here. Practically every single prime minister, president, king here today lost millions of their own countrymen in a war to defeat this hatred. 80 years ago, millions of young men gave up their lives so these gas chambers were turned off forever. That means millions of young men, I should say women, never had the chance to live out their lives, to fall in love, to have families, to do good work, to watch their children grow up. They gave up everything so we would live in a free and safe world. More than 60 million human beings died, 6 million of them Jews. We will never know what the world lost in all these deaths, the cures for disease, the great works of art, music, and literature. So much is lost with each life that was extinguished. Our future, the future of the entire world, depends on which direction young people take. They have a choice to go on the old road of hatred once again, or they can summon up the courage to stand up to these hatreds swirling around them. All of us have a choice as well. We can leave here and go back to our 50 different countries and assume it's not our problem. Or we can leave here united in our determination to stop this hate rising up in our world, united in our determination to guide our young people in the right direction, united as one. I've been involved with Auschwitz for more than 50 years, since the 25th anniversary in 1970. On my first visit, I saw how time elements were taking their toll. I realized that if no efforts were made to preserve Auschwitz, it would soon disappear. So I took it upon myself to start that process, to make sure that Auschwitz would stand for all time as the strongest lesson for all humanity. What we see here today reflects what Auschwitz looked like in 1945. So future generations will see and learn the lessons of Auschwitz. And I salute the many people who helped me in this endeavor with the same commitment. I hope Roman Kent is looking at us now, knowing that we do everything in our power to make sure that his warning does not come to pass. Don't worry, Roman. We will fight this hatred with renewed determination. And I firmly believe that the good will triumph in the end. Finally, I would like to convey what this place, Auschwitz, means to me. Not as a survivor, not as a liberator, but simply as a Jew who cared deeply about my fellow Jews. On that first visit here so long ago, I was struck by a thought that every Jew must have when they come to Auschwitz. What if I'd been born in Budapest in 1944, where my grandparents came from, instead of New York, where they settled? What would have happened to me? You all know the answers to that question. I feel a deep personal connection to this place, this platform where over 1 million people arrived. I was drawn to this place. I try to come here as often as possible. Every visit, I would always stop at the train station on Avincian and buy flowers. And then I would find a rock, and I would lay the flowers at the tombstone out there. I would put the rock on top of the memorial that many of us have done for more than 1 million men, women, and children whose souls swirl around us. I would say a special prayer, the prayer you know. I felt then and I feel now. I tie to each one of them. It's hard to explain, but it's profound, and it's a major part of who I am. I've spoken here in past commemorations. Today, I must be realistic. This may well be the last commemoration, and also that I will speak at. But I leave today with the understanding I did my best. I did my utmost to be worthy of the memory of all those who were lost there. I tried my best. Hope I was worthy. God bless the memory, and God bless all of you. Thank you.